We saw many heads of state. We saw, of course, the College of Cardinals, all General Congress, Basilica.
The Diocese of Rome as well, and all are going to leave from this area. And throughout this morning,
during this time of sede vacante to the Holy See as
Linda, to the interreligious representation was particularly
the Holy See as
Linda, to the interreligious representation was particularly was amazing. Term also used often fraternity, as with his views, and they will remember that in a very strong or powerful symbolic moments and chants of their very strong or powerful symbolic moments and chants of their own traditions. Part of the we can see here.
We saw Jews, we saw Sikhs, we saw sheiks from Canada. We saw many heads of state. We saw of course, the College of Cardinals, all general congregations during this time of sede vacante to the Holy See, as it should take about half an hour to reach St. Mary Major. Perhaps for security reasons, people have been asked not to walk behind it, but they will definitely be lining the streets.
And we've seen some of the images of the entirety of the route.
Amazing. Term also used often fraternity, as with his encyclical, our shared values, and they will remember that in a special way.
With this funeral mass and with his request of the peripheries, and the last 12 years, and leaving the Vatican.
Mobile, open, white. It's actually a car that it will drive at about 10 kilometers per hour, so it should take about half an hour to reach St. Mary Major. Perhaps for security reasons, people have been asked not to walk behind it, but they will definitely be lining the streets.
And we've seen some of the images of the entirety of the route that you described earlier. Thousands and thousands of people have taken to the streets to say goodbye for the last time, and of course everyone will be able to visit St. Mary Major and visit Pope Francis's tomb. But this really is, the day that we are dedicating to him to say goodbye. And Rome, and not only Rome, the faithful have really come out for that.
Very symbolically also, we know that a group of mostly poor people who are assisted by charities will be at St. Mary Major to welcome him to his final resting place. The Pope of the peripheries, the Pope of the people, is very aptly receiving his last embrace from those who he loved the most, the smallest, the weakest, the last in society.
We see the whole entourage there from high above. Now they've just exited Vatican City. They're on the avenue here that leads to a tunnel that then crosses over the Tiber River and we'll take him into the historic center. People lining the streets there, and we've had plenty of reports of people lining the streets across the city since this morning. So while many were crowded into St. Peter's Square, which had at least around 50,000 until they had to kind of close it off due to the numbers, and then so many hundreds of 150,000 others in the avenues surrounding the area. We have many people as well, in addition, lining the streets or the sidewalks to pay their final respects to Pope Francis and the entourage here, moving at a pace that gives people time to take in the moment as it happens.
And these aerial images that were being shown are they're really quite impressive. They're beautiful. You can see the car carrying the Pope, and then above what I believe to be the Vatican gardens, the Pope's gardens, this beautiful green area, which I'm sure he must have wandered through so often. And it's beautiful to have them both together as he makes his way to St. Mary Major. There really are a lot of people out there. You can hear the applause as he makes his way down.
You were saying, Francesca, the Vatican Gardens, which he probably walked. I thought it very beautiful that in the Vrogito, the last act, which they placed in his coffin, there was a summary of his life and of who he was and of his pontificate. And in particular, he was described as a simple and popular pastor in his archdiocese in Argentina, who travelled far and wide by metro and by bus, living in a flat, preparing his own food because he felt like a normal person.
And I think he made everyone he met feel like he was a normal person, and that they were meeting a normal person. And the Pope of the peripheries, that's really what he was. And especially talking about his travelling, and he really travelled the world. His penultimate trip, which Linda, you were on, and he really went to the other side, the forgotten side of the world.
Absolutely. I must say I've had the privilege to be on 2 faraway trips. One was the one you're just mentioning that took us to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and Singapore, but even the year before to Mongolia to visit the smallest Catholic flock in the world, 1,500 Catholics of the entire Mongolian population. So yes, he travelled into the peripheries of the city, going to visit prisoners, going to visit elderly people, poor people, always welcoming refugees, but he'd also travel across the world to the remotest and furthest away places from the Vatican, obviously, that is. And people always came out in floods to welcome him. I'll never forget landing in Timor-Leste, which is a tiny and new country, and the half of the entire population, 750,000 people, came to the Mass. The floods of people just there to welcome him. Very moving.
And they're countries that are so far off the grid, we barely even hear of them. And another gesture that was one of his final gestures was he visited the prison. He went to Regina Coeli, I believe, which is a prison in the Trastevere area of Rome, not too far from the Vatican. And it's a symbolic gesture that he does every year at Easter. And of course, with him having been unwell, we weren't sure whether he would have done, and the fact that he did meant so much to prisoners worldwide, but all marginalized people. And I think the Pope himself said, it could have been me, it could have been anyone in your position, and that awareness that he had and that he transmitted to the people who were suffering the most, I think, is one of the greatest legacies that,
as you've mentioned, the around 40 of them will be there. There might be more or less, but some of them have Marta and meet with them just to.
He's passing here in front of some very
more of here, and
yes, it's remarkable. Also, it's the first papal funeral, can we say, with this advanced technology, digital technology that is really giving
of what's happening, and it gives you a sense of context in a way that's. And you can see all the crowds of people on either side of the street. As they wave there. And again, it's particularly poignant and touches migrants and refugees. And
I must say, in these days in which tributes have been pouring in, again,
Marta, and meet with them just to.
He's passing here in front of some very
more of here, and
yes, it's remarkable. Hopefully, that voice will be will continue to resonate.
Well, right until the very end, his final appearance on Easter Sunday, he dedicated his on Easter Sunday. He dedicated his words, his Urbi blessing, which someone else read for him, but he dedicated it to the people suffering war, and he has.
They wave there, and again, it's particularly poignant and touches migrants and refugees, and
I must say, in these days in which tributes have been pouring in, again and again, I've been hearing. He was a voice for those who had no voice. So hopefully that voice will be will continue to resonate.
Well, right.
So often for him at the general audience, which is always an occasion for him to reiterate this appeal. And Francisca, you wrote that lovely farewell that we published on the web about the Pope of Peace, which particularly
to the people suffering war, and he has always been a voice for the people in countries where
I think resonated with you.
I have to say that one of the things I learnt reading at Pope Francis's audience is that his style of being closer to the people resonated in every aspect of his pontificate. So it was very clear when up until a few years ago, the readers at the general audiences were all Monsignori, religious consecrated men who work within the Vatican walls. And Pope Francis changed that. And the readers became people like me. I'm a woman, I'm not a religious, not a consecrated woman, and ages. All kinds of different accents, and it really represents the people in the square audiences when other people are reading. Really builds that bridge. It's been a real honor reading for him. Audiences
include people in the church. You know, he's been
The readers at the general audiences were all Monsignori, religious consecrated men who work within the Vatican walls.
Right in the center of the Eternal City of Rome, historic. Again, they preferred that people not follow behind. The vehicles for safety reasons, above all. Just wanted to mention, you were mentioning the Pope appeals for peace. That drew a lot of applause. To do their utmost to bring peace in our world, and
our reading, it really builds that bridge. It's been our reading, it really builds that bridge. It's been a real honor reading for him at audiences.
Include people in the church, he's been denominations. He has want to continue.
And I can't remember them all, but I know that one of them was Ukraine, another one was Palestine, Myanmar was mentioned, and it's true, these are all countries that...
Which literally right in the center of the Eternal City of Rome, historic. Again, they preferred that people not follow behind the vehicles for safety reasons, above all. Just wanted to mention, you were mentioning the Pope appeals for peace. That drew a lot of applause. People to do their utmost to bring peace in our world.
Count
the altar to the fallen soldier,
and there are people all going.
Places in Rome. It's the road that runs through.
Hence all the construction equipment there.
But can I say Rome is becoming
all the construction equipment there.
But can I say Rome is becoming more and more beautiful.
It is present here in a way in greeting and blessing the crowd. And blessing the crowds, I'm sure.
It's so lovely also that he wants to be, that he obviously feels Roman. He's Argentine, but he's Roman. He's the Bishop of Rome. He's said it so many times. And his devotion to the Salus Populi Romani is so significant as well.
Even his parish visits that he would make on occasion, he would go to the most remote parishes, the ones really on the outskirts of the city. The idea being to reach out to those who may have the least chance of seeing him or expecting to see him. That was his style.
And he'd go without a prepared text to engage in real conversation. I was speaking just yesterday or the day before yesterday to the international director of JRS, the Jesuit Refugee Service. And he was saying he'd pop into the Jesuit house in Rome and sit down and chat with them, and even about, like events that were coming up that had to be scheduled or had to be prepared. But he said he'd invariably come open to dialogue, open to listening to what others had to say. In fact, Brother Michael Scherf said he wanted to hear what other people had to say.
Seeing these stunning images as he heads towards the Colosseum. We've just gone through the Roman Forum there. And the crowds are thick on either side. There. We're going to have some nice images of the Rome's takes place there at the Colosseum in a very symbolic and suggestive way, in remembering Good Friday and those who've suffered and died.
He actually wrote the meditations himself this year. Very often they are written by groups of people, like symbolically, like by widows or war veterans, or bring global justice to every person, every human being in the world, as we are called to recognize the inherent dignity of all.
Well, Pope Francis has often spoken of promoting an economy of peace and an economy of fratellanza, which is the word that inspires Fratelli Tutti. It means brotherhood.
Fraternity.
Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. An economy of fraternity, and it is bringing together a lot of the things that we've spoken about. It's bringing together the poor and the marginalized and the people suffering on the other side of the world, in our case, us being here in the Vatican, who are suffering
dignity of all.
Well, Pope Francis has often spoken of promoting an economy of peace and an economy of fratellanza, which is the word that inspires Fratelli Tutti. It means brotherhood.
Fraternity.
Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. An economy of fraternity, and it is bringing together a lot of the things that we've spoken about. It's bringing together the poor and the marginalized and the people suffering on the other side of the world, in our case, us being here in the Vatican, who are suffering war, and often they're countries who are suffering economically, and it's calling to action and to responsibility the countries that can help.
Exactly. Denouncing the great divide that there is between the rich and the poor. How often has he said all the food...
Be coming up on that Via Merulana there. And here, so we're probably about 2/3 of the way there, I would say. And again, Pope Francis wished to be buried at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, and he wished to be buried next to the Salus Populi Romani icon of Mary, who is, people go to pray, and Pope Francis throughout his pontificate, and in particular this icon there, in the Basilica, and they go to pay homage to that icon. They see only a simple space where we'll be seeing shortly. To that icon, that they see only a simple space where we'll be seeing shortly.
In the Vatican grottos, but it's actually not uncommon for a pope to ask to be buried outside the grottos. Other popes are buried in St. John Lateran, and even in
Populi Romani icon 126 times.
He went on And I also remember relating to the icon Cello, that was a particularly important moment because there was a particularly important moment because there was a street, I'd say, of Rome. Which leads from just these images of Pope Francis walking down. Another moment like that, which was
to pay homage to that icon, that they see only a simple space.
Images of Pope Francis walking down. Another moment like that, which was the Statio Orbi, which where we were. It has to be open every day to. Pope Francis was just about to go out in the square, and Rome was empty, and Pope Francis was just about to go out in the square, and Rome was empty, and
be buried outside the grottos. Other popes are buried in St. John Lateran.
Go out in the square, and Rome was empty, and
crucifix of San Marcello with him in the square.
Yes.
You can see we're back in the sunshine there. We were just sunshine there. We were just sidewalk area opens up. More and more people are packed in there too. We're back in the sunshine there. We were just sidewalk area opens up. More and more people are packed in there too.
Oh, here he comes now.
Here he is.
The images are being shown from the Basilica, and he's arrived. And he's arrived.
Yes.
The images are being shown from the Basilica, and he's arrived. I have to say, it's a very touching moment. It's almost difficult to know what to say.
I think most people can see and watch, but many people are also perhaps following on radio. Yes, it is very solemn. It's very sad.
At the same time, it's a celebration of his life and ministry, and it's particularly poignant in this Jubilee of Hope as well that he inaugurated, that he opened. And so I think, I would imagine that would be and of course it is the key theme as well that we celebrate in a very special way at Easter at this time, a time of hope, of birth, new life, life in a new and transformed way. And so I think all today has been a wonderful tribute to Pope Francis and his ministry. And there we see the icon Salus Populi Romani. It's a panel made of cedar wood. It's about 117 by 79 centimeters, more or less. It's quite large when you bring it down to the ground. It's mounted in the chapel there higher up, and it depicts a half figure of Our Lady with the child Jesus in her arms. And the icon again is especially dear to the Roman people and highly linked to the identity of Rome and the popes. And as we saw with Pope Francis, he had that special dedication to Our Lady in this icon of Rome.
He visited the Basilica just recently during his convalescence at Casa Santa Marta after he was discharged from the hospital on the 23rd of March. He actually, on his way back from the hospital, he stopped to pay tribute to Our Lady.
We see those arriving, some of the cardinals and prelates who are arriving here for this moment before the coffin is taken into the basilica for burial. This moment of that will take place here outside in front of the basilica.
The Cardinal Camerlengo, Kevin Farrell, will again preside inside the basilica at the final rite of interment, together obviously with other cardinals and prelates. The coffin has been set on a stand. I don't want to call it a catafalque because Pope Francis specifically asked that the whole rite be simplified, no catafalque. So it's on a stand, about to be carried inside this beautiful, beautiful basilica.
And if I'm not mistaken, just before his interment, the coffin will be placed for a few moments with the Pope facing the icon of Mary Salus Populi Romani, so that he can say his final goodbye to the Mary to whom he has entrusted himself and the world to so many times.
It truly is a simple coffin. It has a very simple cross engraved in it, a tiny coat of arms, and the seal of the Holy See.
I think it's being shown to the crowd, who, as you can hear, have applauded, and it's our final goodbye now.
Yep.
Before it's taken in procession into the basilica.
We hear the bells tolling. The Swiss Guards leading the procession.
Always present for the Pope's protection in every moment.
We're hearing the Sistine Chapel Choir there accompany us as the coffin is being brought in procession into the basilica, going through the atrium now and now into the basilica to be brought before the icon of the Salus Populi Romani, before being placed in the tomb that has been prepared. It's a simple tomb bearing only the inscription Franciscus, and a reproduction of the late Pope's pectoral cross. There we're seeing the icon of Salus Populi Romani in the chapel that will be next to where Pope Francis will be laid to rest. There we see the coffin before the Pauline chapel where the icon of Salus Populi Romani is found. And we have some children who are bringing a homage to the altar there, above which is the icon of Mary. Recalling the flowers Pope Francis would bring in homage when he would go there to pray before an apostolic journey or to give thanks or to for special prayers in his many visits there.
I think these must be roses that people have brought, because they were single roses, white roses on long stems, and people probably brought those to lay on his coffin or close to him.
I think there was a group of people holding them outside the Basilica when the coffin was being brought up. And now he's...
As you said, he is saluting Our Lady.
And thanking her, I'm sure.
And now he's being taken close to the altar of St. Francis. The tomb is located just near there. And it will be taken to the niche of a side nave between, again, the Pauline chapel and the altar of St. Francis.
Qui convertit Petram in stagna aquarum, et silicem in fontes aquarum. Eosum resurrectio et vita, qui credit in me, et sciensi mortus fuerit vivet, et omnis qui vivit et credit in me, non morietur in aeternum.
The private celebration is now underway in the Basilica, and as it is private at this moment, we're going to conclude our broadcast here, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us and all of us paying tribute to our dear Pope Francis. That is Joan signing off here.
Yes, we do conclude this live broadcast here. Of course, please visit the Vatican News website, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube accounts for coverage of all of these events. Thank you so much, Thaddeus and Francesca, for bringing your witness and your voice. And thank you also to our technicians, our audio coordinator, and to all our media partners, TV and radio, who have made this broadcast possible, and to all of you for joining in. Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praised be to Jesus Christ.
Massimo De Seguo.